Okay, hopefully everybody can hear me and people will start coming in right now. Okay. We are live. We are going. This is this is real. Less than 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. We'll continue this right now. I'm going to shut down this one Okay. Let me get everybody over to the new stream. Give me 1 second. Let's do the invites. Copy. There you go. Okay. Paste. Let's do this. Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing good. Tux will be in here in a second, I'm pretty
That
sure.
was totally on your end, I'm pretty sure, because we could hear each other. Tux and I were talking in the
Yeah.
background. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on. The only one who's been able to do it first shot was Lisa.
Are
Uh,
you sure? Well, I went through all the microphone settings. I went
mhm.
through every single one that was an option. It didn't work. Nothing worked.
Didn't work.
So,
Okay.
I just used my default, which is like I have like a little shotgun mic here, right?
Yeah,
Like this thing, you know.
yeah, it used to have so the options used to have a default option, and then that
Yeah, that's what
default
it was.
option went
It was on
away.
default.
Yeah, and so I don't know
Huh.
what to do ever since they changed that. It's not like the biggest deal in the world, but it is annoying.
It is annoying if you want to talk to other people, all
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The software itself
Yes.
for streaming is perfect, but it wasn't set up for other people. It barely this year they started having the ability to talk to other people, and
Oh, I
it's
see. They
buggy
just
as
added
hell.
it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
added it maybe like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and I've used it for filming,
Hmm.
and when I'm doing the recording, their video looks great, and then once I start for the edit, in the edit, their video is crap. And
Hmm.
then on the audio, when I try to do it on a live stream, the only one who's been able to figure it out is Lisa. Like literally,
Yeah, I
I've
like
had like
Lisa. Lisa's awesome.
yeah, I've had
Just
big
putting
guests
that out
that
there.
wanna do stuff with me, and we can't get the audio to work. So I'm like, well, we can't air anything because I have a friend of mine who's an activist in the polyamorous and kink community,
Hmm.
and
How do you?
we wanted to
How do
do
you?
some
I'm
live
just
stuff.
just curious. How do you be an activist for that?
I mean, you basically just tell people it's
Promote it. You're
promote it.
like,
Yeah,
hey,
you're just
and
promoting
like
it.
try to destigmatize it, I guess.
Yeah, that's basically what you're doing.
I was
But
like,
yeah, no,
she's like, come over here, I'll give you a little spanking.
well, so she uses it for
That's
hold
funny.
on. She uses it for post traumatic stress like therapy.
Yeah.
She was in war. She got blown
Yeah.
up basically,
Yeah.
and so she uses it for that.
She was in,
Um,
I assume, after the like Iraq
after
war and
after after that, yeah,
Afghanistan.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
My
where she
cousin
was
was
stationed. I don't
my
know where
cousin
she
was
was.
over in
Yeah,
that shit. He got all sorts of fucked up from that too. Actually, two of my cousins that are like my age, and one of them's in prison now, and
yeah.
so it
So
didn't work out too well for him.
she was a non-combatant. Like she wasn't supposed to be
Hmm.
in fighting, but
It
even
doesn't matter though. You're
yeah,
just around it.
yeah. And
Yeah.
then so they were doing sweeping, and her vehicle got targeted, and so everybody in that vehicle,
Oh fuck.
bam,
That
you know.
sucks, man.
I mean, hey, yeah, I mean,
Dude,
you're.
my
Yeah.
dad died in a plane crash.
Oh man, I'm sorry, man.
When he was 45. I'm 44 now.
Mm,
I was 21 at the time when he died, right?
yeah.
But um so like that shook me up, right? And then
Hmm.
I saw like when my dad was when we first when I was younger, the first plane I ever flew in was like a private plane. It was my dad's like his like dental assistant's husband owned it. He was like
Okay.
a contractor, right? He took me up in his pontoon plane and we landed on the lake and shit. He used to do stunt shows and shit, right? He fucking crashed that thing after my dad died, like 5 years after my dad died. He crashed that thing on the hill next to my house, doing in the middle of a
Whoa.
stunt show. And there's this big ball of fire, and I was like, that was the first plane I knew I fucking ever flew in, and I know the pilot. And I'm like, fucking Randy, what the hell? So yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't get into small planes.
Yeah, no,
Right.
no, no. I get it. I'm putting out
Uh,
just to let everyone know, I'm putting out the link to this stream since the last one was actually getting people and I killed it, which is not smart.
yeah. No, it'll people will come back in, I'm sure. It just takes a minute. It wasn't like it didn't refresh very fast, so I had to like hit refresh on your page a couple times to get the.
Okay. Copy, paste.
No, I'm hearing myself.
And I'm also going to put it feel free to share it also to anybody so that we can get some people
Okay,
in
yeah,
here.
word.
Let's have a fun conversation. I don't want this
Yeah,
to be dry.
I'll invite some people.
Okay, I put it in all my 3 social medias that are not private social medias. um So it's interesting, you were talking about 9/11. I don't ever talk about this on stream. It's a personal story that I tell a lot in my personal life. I want to be clear. It's not like I'm shy about it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that I don't put out there because it's not relevant. I have a stupid award that I never show on stream. I think today will be the premiere of showing that stupid award. Give me 1 second.
Your
I'm very
stupid
proud of it.
award.
Yeah.
All right.
So, so check it out. Legit, like real.
All
Honor
right.
platoon.
What does it say?
Honor platoon.
Okay. All right.
So I was in ROTC, Marine
Right.
Corps ROTC for 4 years, which means that you get an E3 ranking when you go
Mm-hmm.
into the active service, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it means you get to you get a little certain advantages and stuff like that. And if you go to ROTC, like if you go to an ROTC academy, you need like a senator's endorsement or a congressman's endorsement. You'll go up instead of going in as a warden, you go in like a warden 3 or something like that. Basically, you get better pay when you start off.
Okay. That's cool.
So when I went to the military, I did not go Marine Corps because I wanted to go military intelligence because the person who taught me martial arts and philosophy was in Army intelligence, and
I'm a
there's
martial
no.
artist too.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about that before. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We have.
uh, and so I wanted to follow in his footsteps. There's kind of a pun there because he had no legs, but anyway, I wanted to follow in his footsteps, and um, I uh, I chose to go to the army to
Uh-huh.
get army intelligence, and I passed all the tests and I do all the things. I didn't like get a great score or anything, but I qualified, right?
You passed. Right.
And uh, when everything's said and done, and I'm a soldier, like everything's done, uh, they messed up on the paperwork because I went from MCJ ROTC to the army.
Uh-oh.
And so there's a little gap there. And they're like,
There.
so you have 3 options. You can A, sign this away, we don't give you the extra pay, and you just continue on as a soldier. B, you can get the rank, but you won't get the pay until after your MOS training is done.
Okay.
Or C, because we messed up, you're under no obligation. The contract has to be voided. Because we
Mm-hmm.
messed up, you're not technically a soldier. So you don't have to sign up. But nobody would do that. And I
So you're like,
went,
I'm out?
I'm out. I'm done. And
Yeah. I would have done that too. I'd be like, I'm
but
gonna wipe these hands clean, baby.
the reason why I don't tell that story is because
That's a good story.
in my own lore, especially around my family, it's a big deal because the MOS I was going for was logistics, and
Mm-hmm.
at least the story at the time of 9/11 is that that's the room in the Pentagon of Army
Right.
intelligence that was hit.
Right.
So we in my family, we all like, who knows? I could have failed out of the school at any point. There's no guarantee
Right.
that I would have,
Right.
but we always kind of felt like that was providence. You know what I mean? Like within
Right.
the
Like you could have been
yeah,
in there. You could have been
yeah,
in the Pentagon. You would have been
yeah.
one of the desk jockeys in there, and
Because that's what I wanted to be. I didn't want to go to war. I
yeah,
wanted to be a
yeah,
desk
of
jockey. I
course
wanted to be
not.
like nice, safe, doing logistics, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Who
So
the fuck wants to go to war? That's stupid. Who wants to have to
yeah,
kill another person?
exactly. So like, so yeah, so
I mean,
that's that was that's the story that I so in my
that's a
family
good
that story
story.
gets told a lot, but on here I don't want to, I don't want any stolen valor. I don't want any of that kind of shit. So I was
Yeah,
like, I don't like telling, but it's a fun story. You know what I mean? Like
it
it's a
is a good
cool
story.
little.
I have a friend that's like a scientist, like a naval scientist, but
Mhm.
he could only tell me when he got out, you know.
Ah,
And then he signed up again, and he was like, "I can't tell you if I get back in," you know, that kind of situation. He also does like security and shit.
uh,
Like
I remember
he's a
during the
super nerd.
interview process, they asked if you ever took drugs, and I had to confess that I once had a contact high because, like, I was
You're
like,
like, I got a contact high.
I got a contact high once. I'm like, is that a disqualifier? And she was just like, no, go.
Yeah. She's like, you were
Oh,
in a room where it was hotboxed. No, that's
yeah,
fine. Nobody
yeah.
gives a shit.
Well, because my mentor, the person who taught me martial arts, he told me that they get a spinal tap when you go MI when you go Army Intelligence.
Mm.
So I was just like, I don't want them to find something and
Oh
them
fuck
think I
no,
lied.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, yeah, I got a contact high, but she
I'd be
was so
like,
unimpressed.
yeah, I took a few things, psychedelics mainly. You'll probably find a lot of traces of acid at one point in there.
So
One of those
anyway,
drugs.
let's start. I
Sorry.
was hoping Tux was gonna hop
Yeah,
back
no,
in,
where's
but I
Tux?
guess
I
not.
love Tux. Let me go grab another beer. I'll be right back.
Okay,
I can
all
still hear
right,
you.
all right, and then whenever you're ready, we'll start doing the thing. So for those that don't know, this is usually an anti-apologetics channel, but today we're going to be doing a little bit of politics with our debate. We're just waiting for one more guest to get in here. I'm going to mention him in the chat of this to be like, hey, Tux, get your ass over here. Okay.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, I have a bunch of cousins that were in the military after 9/11 and shit like that.
Yeah, I graduated high school in 1999, so I just
Yeah, I was 98.
barely, yeah.
That's assumed we were about the same age. That's what I thought. Because I
Uh,
remember seeing you on YouTube in like the early 2000s, I think, or
yeah, under a
whenever
different
that
name
was.
and all that stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
I went viral and I thought I was going to be famous. I was getting 50,000 views of video and I was on, I was what
Yeah.
Logic is the original and
Mm-hmm.
Godless Cranium were doing videos on me and
That's
shit.
right. Logic went after you at one point. He's like, no,
Yeah,
this guy's an idiot.
I, I thought I was going to go big and then I fucking attacked Brian Holdsworth and people were like, "No, you fuck you." And I'm like,
They're like, you
"What?"
shouldn't have done that. Who's Brian
Yeah.
Holdsworth? Who's that?
He made a video defending the Crusades and the Inquisition,
Oh,
and
okay.
my family legitimately, my family are conversos, and we're on a
Mm.
name list. So if you don't know what happened a few years ago, hey Jimmy, if you don't know
Jimmy's
what
here.
happened a few years ago, Spain, because of their anti-Semitism, decided to make an apology to all Jews that they expelled and you could
Hmm.
get citizenship. And Israel countered that offer and said, "Well, if you take that citizenship, you can get your citizenship in
In
Israel.
Israel.
So all you have to do is deconvert from Christianity, become a Jew,
Become a
and you
Jew.
can get two
Hmm.
citizenships." And I was like, at the time, I wasn't an active Catholic. I was like, that sounds like a good fucking deal. so I went into it, and uh, I think you
That's
just muted.
interesting. Yeah,
I
you're
think you muted yourself,
muted,
Jimmy.
buddy.
Jimmy, you muted yourself.
There
Yeah.
you are, buddy.
So I thought it was a good deal. So I was like, I'm gonna go do the research, and this actually helped confirm my Catholicism. By the way, it was this process. I was on my family, so I'm I can't say the name of the town because it's my last name, but there's a town in Spain that's named after my family because
Okay.
during the time of El Cid, like that era, El Cid's not a real person, but during that era, they founded a town to protect Jewish people and eventually converted to Judaism. Okay. So that same family during the Inquisition flipped, and they started turning Jews in, and there was a split in the family, and the part of the family that lived that didn't get executed to get out of town came to Never Laredo. That's where I'm from in Mexico, and so they went directly from our hometown in Spain to San Luis Potosi. And in San Luis Potosi, that's where my family's. And then we show up again in the history books one more time on a specific train coming to Laredo, Texas. So yeah, so my family history is really ugly, and you could see who betrayed who and who was punished for it. So when Brian Holdsworth was like, no one was harmed by the Inquisition, I was like, motherfucker.
Well, you're like, my family was directly harmed. Screw you.
Yeah. I was like, I'm an active Catholic, but what you're saying is offensive. Like fuck that. And what he took offense to was I called him a redheaded troglodyte. That was where he was sending me an email. He was like, I don't interact with people like you, and I'm never going to talk to you again.
He's
and
like,
I'm
how
like,
dare you ad
how
hominem
dare you?
me? That was just a good excuse to get out of arguing with you. You know?
Yeah. But that hurt my standing in the entire Catholic community. Like for real. Like my channel just went.
Of course it did. Yeah. Yeah. That
And
makes sense.
my channel only started getting popular again when he got in trouble for supporting the Pope against the rad trads.
Did you go after him again? You should have made another video about
it. I've been thinking about it. I have 3 videos saved up that I'm like these are good.
You should upload them. You should.
Yeah. You should. Hey Tux, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, good evening. Almost midnight in my little part of the world.
How was car sales for you this week?
I don't know. I'm overcoming the objections really well. There's just a lot of objections.
So I might go back into sales pretty soon now that I have a nurse taking care of my dad again.
I wouldn't do it. Change careers.
Yeah. Well, right now I work in a pawn shop, and I'm not making a lot of money, buddy. So it's
yeah. I'm not making a lot of money in the car business.
That's hard.
It's been really slow. I've had a roughly 40 days. So it's been a very rough 40 days.
You're a car salesman?
I am.
Okay.
Well, I'm a
You're like,
car show up to work and not sell cars. Car salesman.
Sorry.
No, it's I've got a lot of things in the works, but there's a couple of stop sales right now that are interfering, and there's not a lot of inventory. And I think we're about to turn a corner with the X3 about to come out, and that'll be out next month. And I think there'll be a lot of things that pick up, hopefully.
I'll be honest with you, Jimmy. Leaving the car business was one of the most emotional days of my life. Not the most, but one of the most emotional. And to be very blunt, real jobs don't pay like the car business, man. The car business, you can go from zero to hero in a single sell.
Yeah, my dad used to trade cars as a hobby. He'd make some pretty good money doing that shit on the side. But that was
I have days I enjoy it. I have months I enjoy it. I have years that I've enjoyed it. It seems like on a daily basis, the grind itself doesn't have too much enjoyment.
Right.
Brian, can you pick up your audio just a little bit? Me and Tuck seem to be overshadowing your audio.
I can try.
there's always it's weird in the car business where you grind it out on a daily basis and then the paycheck comes and you're like, oh yeah, that's why I do this. So yeah, if you've ever heard the baseball term a bloop and a blast to win the game, that's exactly what the car business is. You're always on that precipice of having have a mini and a maxi, basically.
Right.
A mini and a crack. So
Also, I'll say this: now that I'm working, I've worked 2 regular jobs since being a salesman, and talking like a salesman is not something that's done in a regular job. I can say that also. Like they don't think the same way. There's no getting fired every day. There's no staying late till that last sell happens. None of that. There's that way of thinking, that mentality doesn't exist.
I don't work at one of those kind of stores where we stay late. If there's some business going on, then we're still open. But man, we close at 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
We close at 7, and I every once in a while I'm there an hour after that. We were pre-COVID, we were open till 8, and we never expended the hours. And basically, the general thought is once inventory returns the way it was prior to COVID, we would go back to those hours, which has not happened.
Yeah.
So
we've now talked about the military. We've talked about tragedy, and we've talked about car sales. Let's talk about the debate and religion. What do you guys think of the debate? Who won? Who lost? Why is Jimmy wrong and why is Ryan right? Not that I'm trying to create tension.
I just want to make one point that is both car business and debate oriented. The reason I am at BMW is because they weren't affected by some of the Trump tariffs back in 18.
Okay.
Cars being manufactured back in 2018 got stalled at ports, and because nobody could figure out how to do the tariffs, so they were stuck at ports. Manufacturing pieces and parts for these vehicles were also stuck, and so I was selling Mazdas at the time. So
do what you got to do.
Yeah. So I have Volkswagen, General Motors, and Nissan were the 3 most affected car companies.
Yeah. I have a 98 Jetta VRX.
So I have in my hot little hands here a copy of an MSRP of a 2019 Audi e-tron. Okay. This vehicle was being manufactured in August of 2018.
Okay.
And I want to show you down here. It says right there. Can you see that?
It's not focusing, but go
closer. It says, I'll read this to you.
Read it to us. We'll believe
credit, laser scanner, bottleneck assist, delete, $150. Driver assistance package, credit, no LiDAR, $2,700. Now, prior to the spring of 2018, I had never seen a subtraction of multiple things on MSRPs until Trump implemented his little tariff game.
Yeah, his stupid bullshit.
And I'm here to tell you, if he implements the tariff, if he's elected and he implements the tariffs, you will see car lots empty again. Cars won't move, and you will see this kind of thing on every single product, goods, and services that comes out of this world and a supply chain. This was something that was affected much prior, 2 years prior.
He's a monster, dude. He does not.
2 full years prior.
He has no interest in actually Americans prospering. He only has interest in himself. I'm concerned.
Well,
I'm convinced of that.
Let me add this. So I sold foreign cars. I sold Toyota and I sold Hyundai. Okay. And so we had to explain this objection away every car we sold, because everybody was like, well, how come I can go over to Dodge, which is right next door, and I can get it for this price? How come I can go over to Ford and I can get it for this price? Why is this charge here? and we would have to explain it away. We'd have to get over that hurdle. We treat it as a whine because we heard it so much that we couldn't let that be an objection because then we'd lose the sale. So I'm not saying it's not overcomable. It is, but it is something that if someone doesn't want the brand and they're not in love with the car, you're not making that sell. So you're not wrong, Jimmy. It makes it twice as hard on the salesman, and there were salesmen who could not do it. But that being said, there were people who would still hit 30, 35 cars a month selling these cars. There's still people who could do that, but you'd have to get over that objection.
Yeah.
And it's a real objection. Like, I mean, they literally going, how come I got to pay for this? And it's like, well, because we have a president who passed a law that says we don't have these parts. We don't have this stuff. Everything's on back order. That car doesn't exist. This is the car that you have, and this is what we paid for it. We're not fucking you. I know you think we're fucking you. This is what we paid for the car, so this is what you're going to pay.
Right.
Yeah, the invoice percentage is the exact same whether they increase the price.
Yeah.
And right now I have 300 parking spaces and only about, I don't know, 65 of them, 75 of them are being used.
Wow. Come to South Texas, dude. We got lots of cars and we're selling them.
Yeah. I don't know. The rep was in today and I said, how much did you pick up? Did you pick up anything? No. Come on. You didn't get anything out of this? He's like, no. So, the future's bright. Can't wait.
So, did both of you watch the debate? Let me ask that.
Right?
Yeah.
Did both of you watch the debate?
I watched the debate.
And so what did you all think overall of the performance, the show, the whole thing?
Well, from the eyes of somebody who's on Team Harris and switched from being a Republican to a Democrat roughly 20 years ago. I did not vote in the 2004 election, but I would have voted Democrat more than I had ever done before.
That was the first time I voted.
It would have been the first time I voted for a Democrat for president if I had voted. So 20 years, I would say I was sliding into the Dem side.
Yeah.
Blaster? El Rayon?
I think that Kamala Harris did a really good job of dictating Trump, leading him around, showing his weaknesses, and he took the bait. Every time she put it out there, he bit. It was like, it was a masterclass, honestly, in how to make someone look awful.
Let me ask you this, because I watched the debate. I didn't come away with that take at all.
Really?
Adam and Stitch are kind of sharing my ideas. I had these ideas before I watched them, but
I don't like Adam and Stitch. I think they're kind of shills.
That being said,
impressed by Adam.
And I just watched right before this. We were watching That Darn Kitten, and she's also kind of getting the same take, which is for me. And I'm using a wrestling metaphor here, a wrestling analogy, if you will.
I heard you doing
which
that.
is. It doesn't matter how bad Trump performed because you make it look like she couldn't stand on her own. I think if she would have done the exact same thing that she did, but they weren't helping her or aiding her, or even if they weren't helping her, if they weren't against Trump, I think this would have damaged Trump. But by being obviously on her side, this shores up his base and actually emboldens his base to support him even harder. And they're going to discount any facts that might have been said by her. They're going to discount it as propaganda against him, just based on how the network supported her. Or at least
what support?
him.
Be specific. What support?
The extremists are always going to double down, though, right?
What support supported her in that debate? Because here's my problem with that analogy is about 5 times, anytime Trump wanted to speak in response to Kamala, he was given the mic. In fact, when he wanted to interrupt Kamala twice I believe the mic was turned on for him to interrupt Kamala. And that same courtesy was not extended to Kamala.
So,
and then the only thing that was pushed back that I saw of any substance was the Springfield Haitian fact check.
I did see them unmic her one time, and then they also fact checked him with like the pet thing, but that was ridiculous. Oh, the Haitians are eating the pets. Like,
so
what
for
the
instance,
hell? What a
on
hot
the
take,
abortion
man.
thing, they
He's so
totally
backwards.
pushed back against him when
so
what he was
backwards.
saying was true. It doesn't mean that he's right, but at least what he was saying was true, and yet they
No,
corrected him.
you think it was true that
no,
people
he
wanted
was. The
it to go back
question
to the
was, would you
States?
veto if it was on the desk? And he refused to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, but
If
did he
something
correct-
got to his desk, his response was, well, it's not going to happen. Well, that's not the question. The question is would you veto it if you went under your desk? That is not a stacked deck. That is, if this scenario plays out, let's say he does get a landslide victory. He gets the Senate and he gets the House. If he's really against abortion and there is on his desk a bill that he doesn't have something in there that he doesn't like he had mentioned, and it's now that full-fledged ban that she accused him of some of the states, and she
Like
labeled it
2025
the
stuff?
Trump abortion ban.
Mm-hmm.
Would he veto it? And
Well,
he would he would not say that I would refuse.
No, of course
He
not.
would. He only jumped back to, well, that's not going to happen.
Because
again-
he will
Oh,
lick
go
the
ahead.
boots of
Sorry.
anyone that supports him. That's the problem with him. He's like anyone. He looks up to dictators. Like that whole thing. That was like, to me, that was like glaring in the debate when she's like, "Hey, that was a really good point of hers." When she's like, "Hey, he appeals to dictators and he likes dictators and they like him. What the hell? You know?
Okay,
What's up
before
with
we go
that
into that,
shit?"
let's go back to the abortion point just a little bit, which is
Okay, yeah.
So
but I mean,
he-
that's kind of
he himself has told Republicans,
veto.
and again, I'm a Catholic and I'm a Republican, so I've heard this. I'm not just saying this to defend him. He's told his base he's not going to go full abortion ban. He's told his base he's going to support exclusions and exceptions.
I don't
And-
believe anything he says.
Well, this is to his base. This is not to you guys. This is to his base. And his base has told him we don't like that. And they have made videos against him for this to try to pressure him to change his mind. And he said, no, he won't. So this is not talking to you all. This is talking to his base, to the Christians, to his supporters. And he's saying, no, I'm not going that far. So to me, if I was on the other side, I would find that at least comforting that he's not on the same page as I'm not going to call it a radical Christian,
in
but
the
fundamentalist
slightest, because
Christian.
every one of his cronies underneath him are for him, are for doing that, for banning abortion, globally if they could.
Yeah, but I mean that's the Republican Party. That's not just
Yeah.
that's not him by himself.
Yeah, but see, that's how he gets away with saying that. He can use doublespeak because he knows that his base understands that the people under him will enact those things. They will make sure that those things happen. He can talk. He can do that. That's why he does that. He's not telling the truth in that. He's like speaking half truths. You know what I mean? It's like, sure, I'm against it, but if everyone that is for me wants that, then I'll grant it to him. I'm not going to stop them. That's his,
But what
he's not
evidence do
going
you
to.
have of that?
It's just
I mean,
like
that's
the whole
just a
thing in
suspicion.
Ukraine. Do you know what happened in Ukraine? He's like, oh, that wouldn't have happened in Ukraine. No, Putin would have Ukraine right now if it was if you were still the president. You would have
Well, I
given
mean-
it to him.
All right, Tux, you have a comment there before we move on to the second thing, which was the dictators loving him part.
It goes
no.
hand in hand.
I just pulled up C-SPAN to go to the abortion just to refresh my memory how it went down, and that's about it.
So,
and keep in mind that there was an after in the spin room. There was some spin about the abortion after, if I remember correctly. but I don't remember. I don't remember exactly what it was.
You know, if we're on here long enough, what I would like to do is do some compare and contrast between the two ways that he's being represented. Put a conservative pundit on, and then put a like maybe put Brett Cooper on, and then put someone who's opposed to him, just to see how they're covering the exact same issue
Rachel
in the exact
Maddow.
opposite light. I just think that's interesting.
Yeah.
But
No,
to
I
the
like to see
dictator
both
thing,
sides too. I'm interested in that too, but I'm also very aware that the conservative side is completely out the window on this shit. They like do not they lie out there, they just lie about everything.
Yeah.
They want to restrict women's rights. They don't want women to even vote. They
that's
want to take back the 19th Amendment.
that's
They
not
do.
true. That's not true. I'm on the
JD
fucking
Vance
right.
is fine with that shit, I guarantee it.
Well,
And he's
I
supposed to be the
mean,
vice president, and then he becomes the president once Trump dies.
I
What do you
I
think's
don't
going to
know
happen?
enough about JD Vance outside of the Goon Couch to tell
Oh,
you much
he's
about
just
him.
a total sellout. That's what you need to know.
But let's
He
go to the
once
dictator thing.
called.
'Cause
He once called. He once
okay.
called. He said maybe Trump is our next Hitler, and now he's his vice president. That's all you need to know.
Well, let's get to since you mentioned the H guy. Let's go to dictators. So, for those that are watching this later, I'm not a fan of Trump. I was one of the people
How
who
could you
was
be?
really pissed off when he won the first time. I thought it was an impossibility.
Me too.
Um, the
Well, I
second
didn't
time,
because they were running Hillary, and I knew Hillary was a no go.
yeah, the second time around, I did vote for Trump because I don't like Biden. I've never liked Biden. And I'm glad that he's out of the race, just to be very blunt. I'm not impressed and I don't trust Kamala, just to be very blunt.
Yeah.
So I,
Why
I,
why don't you trust?
Yeah, what's the deal?
What's your
um,
trust issue?
I mean, she's not
everything,
perfect. I'm not saying
uh,
that.
everything that I've heard from her doesn't sound
Bernie
impressive.
Sanders
Hmm.
endorsed her.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not a Bernie fan. I've never been a Bernie guy. I've never been a Bernie bro.
What's wrong
Um,
with Bernie Sanders? He's awesome. He's
The,
the
the,
people's person.
so let me give you everyone who I voted for president
Oh boy.
wise. I voted for Bush. I voted for McCain. I voted for Obama. I voted for Stein. I voted
Okay.
for Trump, and that's it. Those are my 5
You
elections that
voted
I've
for
been
Trump
involved
the
in.
first time?
I voted for Trump the second time
Oh wow,
against
really?
Biden. Yeah, I hate Biden. I really
Wow.
hate
Okay.
Biden.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. I mean, I get you hating Biden, but to me, it's like definitely the lesser of two evils there, and I would say Biden's the lesser of two evils in that scenario.
Well, I have very unique views when it comes to politics. I this is going to sound bad considering what just happened with Tenant Media, but I'm a huge fan of both China and Russia. I like their histories. I like their
Oh yeah, yeah.
politics. I've been into their stuff since I was like
You and
in
I are like extreme opposites when it comes to that stuff because my family fled Russia
yeah.
in the 40s to get away from the dictatorship that was happening there.
I
And
my
I
wife
kind of like resent Americans when they say they're pro Russia. I'm no offense to you, but
no, 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 no.
it really frustrates me because I feel like a lot of Americans don't understand the actual like how Russia operates at all.
Mhm.
They're basically a large North Korea.
Yeah. So like my wife, if you don't, I think you know, she's from China. She's actually like
Oh,
from
you're
China.
right.
She's from
Chinese. That's cool.
she grew up in Hunan
I lived
province.
in South Korea for a couple of years, so
Okay, yeah. So
it's not that I'm not
no, I
empathetic
got you.
to
I got you.
Asian philosophy.
Uh,
I
but
used to drink with the communist professor, he was my drinking buddy in Korea.
the way that I look at modern politics is, and I'm not trying to do the destiny thing where I'm like trying to be consistent for consistency's sake. But from my point of view, if I'm gonna like Rome because how Rome operated, if I'm gonna like Greece, if I'm gonna like Alexander the Great, if I'm gonna like certain specific ancient dictators and heroes, why am I gonna suddenly switch my opinion on people when I get to the modern era?
Why would you like dictators?
I like. Alexander the Great, I think he's amazing. I think what he did and what he accomplished and how he did things is great. I love pancration. I love discipline. I love. I actually practice pancration because I love the
Pancration.
history of ancient Greece.
What is
Uh,
pancration? I'm not familiar.
it's an ancient Greek martial arts that's the progenitor to kung fu, and well,
Okay.
kung fu is not even a real thing, but whatever. The Chinese martial arts, it's the
Yeah.
progenitor to Chinese martial arts, which is the grandfather of all martial arts. So what uh the stances, the military stances, all that kind of stuff, the stuff that we associate with martial arts, that's actually comes from pancration because of the phalanx. So the phalanx, the way that they would have to stand, that comes from that formation. There are
I'm not so
certain
sure about that.
aspects of martial arts that wouldn't exist without ancient Greek martial arts. And ancient Greek
But
martial arts,
I don't think that's actually true because I think a lot of martial arts came from when Buddha Parma went to India and trained under the yogis and became started. He said the yogis remind, like at least in Shaolin Kung Fu, this is how it
mhm.
goes. Like in actual Kung Fu, Buddha Parma went to India
Well,
and became a yogi and trained under the yogis, and the yoga poses reminded him of like the Kung Fu he used to practice as a kid, where he imitating different animals, and then he developed a whole different style of Kung Fu out of that.
so interesting story there. Side tangent. My wife's native village, where she grew up, is
Hmm.
right next to that Shaolin temple, to the
Yeah,
real original Shaolin
yeah,
temple.
the
She's right
original
there.
Buddha Parma
Yeah,
temple.
the,
That's
the
awesome.
one in China, not
Hmm.
the not
Oh, not the one in India.
yeah.
Not the one that he
So
actually went to and trained under. That's probably not even there anymore. I'm sure it's
it's
like
well,
gone,
first off, he's not even a real person, but that's a different.
right?
Let's not get
It's
into
just
that.
like a myth, right?
Yeah, but yeah, no, she lives right next to the Shaolin temple. That's where her village was.
That's cool.
Interesting
I like
tangent. Mhm.
showing like the I guess the philosophy, you know what I mean? I'm down with the philosophy.
B.S. Lewis, you're welcome to come in here. We're trying to have a nice argument. If you want to
Yeah,
come
get
in,
Lewis in
feel
here.
free.
We're not going to have an argument. We all mostly agree for the
No,
most
no, no, no,
part.
no, no.
Like
I'm
I
a
kind of like
conservative.
I don't
I'm
I'm
a
in.
like I'm like
conservative
you like
Republican
China?
Christian.
Like now I'm just like what's wrong with you?
I don't. I don't like Trump. I think he's.
Yeah.
I think he's a
I
bad
don't like
guy.
Trump and I don't
But
like
there's
China.
also
I don't like Russia.
Well, I mean, like, not. I'm not bullshitting here. Before we get back into the real topic, like, there's a real chance that after my dad dies, I'm going to be living in China for the rest of my life. So that's real. That's like a
For
legit thing.
reals?
Yeah. I'm probably going to be working at a university in China, so
Okay.
I need to finish my degree work here
Do you
before I go
speak
over there.
Mandarin?
Not currently, but
You better get started on that if you want to go over there.
well,
No,
I've
it's
been
not
there
easy.
before.
No, Asia,
Yeah.
like Asia's fine as long as you're not living in fucking China,
I
because
speak
then you have to know Chinese.
uh
No one knows speak
I speak Golden China, Hunan Palace, Szechuan.
Szechuan chicken.
Chicken.
I like.
I promise B.S. Lewis that if he comes in, we will not talk politics, but we will talk religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
I
go
might be heading to
religion.
bed. BS is 2 hours. 2 hours behind me. So
Yeah, same here.
Okay,
It's only
so
10:14 here.
let's finish the talking points
I
on
got
what I was
Arizona
saying,
time. We have
and then
Arizona
there you
time.
guys can counter it.
We don't acknowledge daylight savings. It's awesome. I never
yeah,
have to change my clock here.
I used to live in Indiana. That once upon a time, and we
Yeah,
didn't have to.
that's so nice.
But
We should just get rid of it,
to
right?
go
It's stupid.
I
to Blaster Master's original question, um, that's part of my appeal of the Catholic Church is that it has an authority structure. I like that
Hmm.
authority.
mhm.
Um, and maybe this
I
is
don't.
coming from the fact that I was in
I'm just a rebel.
MCJRTC for so long. I like having, I like the fact that there's a leader who can make a decision, and then you can say whether or not the decision is right or wrong. I like the fact that the Catholic Church is organized. I do like
So
that. I like
I
the hierarchy.
trained under a Catholic a woman that
Yeah.
was a Catholic nun prior to me
You
training.
told me you've told this story
Yeah,
before. Yeah.
yeah. She was like a Buddhist Catholic nun, and she was also a yogi, right? She taught me kung fu. She taught me yoga and tai chi, and she trained under one of the like crazy tai chi master that fled Asia. You know,
Okay.
when they were
Let's ask
killing all the monks. So
let's
this
ask
is
some
my
quick.
problem when you're like, I love China, but it's like, and I love martial arts, but you realize they literally tried to kill all the kung fu monks, right? They killed them all. They killed the majority of them.
Oh, I
They
mean, to
killed
be
all the
fair,
people that had degrees. They did
I,
that.
I love Japan, but I don't like what Japan did to China. Like, I mean,
Yeah, but
and
no, China is still practicing this shit though, basically. You know?
I mean,
They
China's
don't like outside thinkers. They don't if you think outside the box, they punish you
well. Okay, let me ask a
and
few
your
questions
family.
real quick, just so we can keep on topic before the hour
Okay,
ends.
go ahead.
All right, and I'm just gonna do them. I'm gonna do them questions to both of you all. If you could
Okay.
change, first off, what was the best thing that Trump did, and what was the best thing that Kamala did? Just one each. Ryan, go first.
What was it? Trump did one thing. He did one thing. It was like there was one thing that he did.
He
It wasn't.
he snapped back with the
Oh, you mean
he
during the
made a
debate?
reference to Kamala being somewhat of a flip-flopper on
Yeah,
things she was against 4 years ago when she was running for president in
yeah,
2020,
yeah.
and that she's changed her mind on many of those things now, and she almost sounds more like him, and that she should send him he should send her a MAGA hat. I thought was
That's a pretty good
pretty
line.
that was pretty good, and I don't think it was planned. I think he just kind of said that off the cuff.
Yeah, he just came up with
And
that
now,
off the top
what's
of his
the
head.
worst thing
That's
you
pretty
think that
quick.
both of them said, or the dumbest thing you think both of them said? What would you
The
change?
dumbest thing he said was doubling down on the immigration, people, the Haitians eating house pets. That
Yeah,
was
I
so
I
mean,
think
stupid.
I
yeah,
think the racist tone of, if you don't recognize that it's racist and you think it's normalcy to start
Hmm.
dwindling everybody into groups that minimizes us instead of raises us up as a whole. That's what he's doing when he does that. He is making a boogeyman out of somebody, and he does this over and over and over again. And when you see it, when you know it and recognize it, then just watch the documentary "Don't Be a Sucker" from post World War II, and you see the way he says those things about Haitians or any other group.
It's just godlessness,
So I saw a clip of him do the same thing in 16, I believe, about Somalians.
Yep, I remember that shit. Yep, he did the same
So
thing.
he needs a boogeyman. He'll make a boogeyman. The story and facts behind that boogeyman do not matter. He only needs to make a small percentage of people believe that there are immigrants coming in for your pet and they're going to destroy your pet, the love of your life.
There's the other thing that he seems to believe is that he thinks that asylum seekers are coming from insane asylums.
Oh, that's
He
funny.
seriously thinks that.
You know what? I just connected those dots.
He's said it like a dozen times in the last 2 months. He's so stupid.
I now understand why he says all these terrible people.
You're like, oh, I get it now. He's so dumb. He doesn't realize that asylum seekers are not coming from asylums. Like, he is that dumb.
That makes sense. I can't believe I didn't see that sooner.
I don't want to.
crazy,
I don't want
though?
to harsh your mellow, but this might hurt your feelings a little bit, Tux. But let me ask you something. As a fellow salesman, I hear sales tactics all the time coming from Trump. I don't think. First off, I don't think anything that he says he believes, and I don't think anything that he says he cares about. I don't want to even pretend that.
100%.
Yeah.
But it's just sales tactics. It's exactly what
He's been closing for 20 months.
Yeah. So
he's going to go into November already having closed the deal, and Democrats don't even understand that.
But isn't it hypocritical of? And I'm speaking about me and you specifically here. Isn't it hypocritical of us? And this, I think about this about myself all the time. I'm judging him for something I do for a living. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Does that? I mean,
Is the state of the nation on
hey,
the
just because I sell a car
is-
doesn't mean I should be president of the United States.
Yeah. Just because you can sell a car, definitely selling cars is not like running the U.S.
Just
Let's say
because
that.
I can
Like,
sell illegal condos through shell companies doesn't mean I should be president of the United States.
But I mean, he
Fucking
is,
A.
and I mean, and it's not as if he's not. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the major crimes, but I mean,
I feel like
it's-
he's perfect for the job, a 1980s Filipino.
the felonies, the held
Like-
accountable for SA. Yeah, that whole all that. He's a naughty boy. You know?
I tell our Somalians, I probably have.
Dude, those I feel bad. Like I don't even understand why. Like, what did Asians do to him?
no,
I don't
he's
know.
just
It's-
Ryan. You're taking him too seriously. He's just repeating the talking point. That's all that he
I
does.
know, he's dumb.
Like he hears something and he regurgitates it. I don't know if you've ever
know.
noticed that. Like just
I know what
listen
kind of
to him.
president. How easily like manipulated is he? That's like my point. That's what I think Harris did a really good job at showing. Is like, hey, you are easily
Yeah.
like dictators can like manipulate you. Other world leaders have manipulated you on the stage. He's like, no, I love this other dude, this strong dictator that loves me. He's like, he says all this good shit about me. He's like, yeah, you're proving our point, right? You took that bait and you went, you know, she
But
reeled you right in with that.
Okay, but again, let me ask you: the whole point of debates like this is to get the people who would shift to her.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
think
that's
this
the thing.
debate
If
is shifting anyone?
let me
I don't
ask
think
you,
so.
it's the independents because the 36% that are pro-Trump and the
You can't move
roughly 10% that
Yeah.
are going to be GOP loyal, no matter who's at the top of the ticket. There is a good percentage of GOP never Trumpers that are unsure, and there's a lot of independents. There's roughly 15%, up to 15%
That's what I was gonna
independents
say.
right now
Yeah,
that
I'm
that could basically determine this election in the next roughly 2 months. My question to you is that up to 15% and the never Trumper and maybe even some of the sensible GOP who are going to grit their teeth and close their eyes and hum and pretend that they're not doing what they're doing by not voting for Trump because they know the Constitution's more important than the who's at the top of their ticket. Now, if we see in the next roughly 7 to 10 days, maybe 6 to 10 days, since we've already been 1 day past, if we start seeing the polls and you start seeing the polls demonstrate that Florida, Ohio, Iowa start to lean in the light red instead of red, and maybe even go purple, I think Kamala did a
Arizona
good
did.
job.
Yeah,
If
same.
Kamala, if everything stays status quo and you're fighting for Pennsylvania and maybe Georgia and maybe North Carolina and maybe Arizona and the places that were kind of the battleground the last election.
Yeah.
If
think
you're in that category, I don't think the Democrats win. But I think they win if now Trump has to defend Texas, if Trump has to defend Ohio, if Trump has to defend Florida and defend Iowa, then it's wide open. And I think Kamala's path to victory is about 300 different scenarios. And the path to victory for Trump is one scenario.
Yeah.
So I'm going to reserve, to your point, I'm going to reserve my judgment until I start seeing some of those polls. If we start seeing Florida narrow that 4-point gap, which was somewhere in the 7-point gap prior to the DNC,
Right.
and now it's about a 4-point gap. If we see that narrow to 1 or 2-point gap, then Florida's in play. Imagine Kamala Harris going down to Dade County
Fucking winning Florida.
once a week
Holy shit.
and stopping in Jacksonville and
That'd be awesome.
stopping in Tampa and stopping in and just pounding
My mother-in-law's
away
from Jacksonville.
at Florida
Mhm.
and encouraging that vote. Trump's nightmare will be revealed.
It will be.
But that's a big
I
if.
think
That's a
he's already
huge
in
if.
panic mode.
let me push back with 2 comments, and feel free to respond to them after I get done. But feel free to respond to them. Okay. So here are my 2 comments. Comment number 1, which is Trump kind of doesn't matter in this. Like, for instance, I'm a Texan. I live in Texas. I can tell you that the majority of people that I talk to support Trump regardless of who Trump really is.
Right.
Like, they just love the guy. The few people who hate him are very loudly spoken, but they're not the majority of the voices.
No.
I'm someone who doesn't like him, but I haven't heard a single Democrat that says the things that I care about. So I'm pro-gun, I'm pro-free speech, I'm, pro-religion. I don't hear a
Are you
Democrat
pro
talking to me.
assault rifle?
Yeah, I'm very pro-gun. Yeah, I'm a Texan. I'm a Texan. So I don't hear any Democrats talking to me. I hear a lot of Republicans saying things that I like, and what Trump is doing is he's saying things that he thinks people. I'm not saying he believes them. He's saying things that people like. So I can be on the same page with someone and say, "Look, I like these things. You like these things," and I go, "I don't like Trump," and they're like, "Yeah, but he's going to give me all this stuff," and I'm like, "No, he's not." And they're like, "Well, what Democrat is going to give me those things?" I'm like, "Well, the Democrats don't want you to do those things, so no." I get it. I get it. I get why you're supporting Trump, but he's not your friend. He's just saying what he wants to say, and he's going to say whatever he wants to say. He doesn't believe anything.
Anything.
He's, so that's
Doesn't believe
that's
anything. He has
that's the problem.
No stand.
So problem number 2 is, like I said, I'm in Texas. Texas is known for blue Democrats. So blue Republicans and red Democrats. It's a very weird state where we have our own politics going on. But Trump, last time around, won my county, and he won different spots, or barely lost in spots that were very close. That's after he was president. That's after people realized he was an insane jackass, and they still would have voted him into office.
Mhm.
Against Biden, yeah, he would have won. Against Kamala, until she stands on her own and really wins, we don't know what's going to happen. Trump could still win. There's still enough people who love Trump for being an asshole. Like, there are people who love him for the fact that he's an asshole.
He
They
said
love
he
him
doesn't
for
want to. That would be like Pine Creek.
Yeah.
He's
So
like,
answer those 2 objections.
I
I
love
want to hear what you guys
Trump
think.
because he likes to be vindictive to people and he hurts people's feelings, and I like that.
Yeah. So
There's a
how
lot
are
of
you going to
people that
convince
feel
those
that way.
people to budge?
There's no convincing
You don't.
them.
You don't.
There's 36% that are going to vote for Trump no matter what. And I think a good portion of that 36%, if somebody else is running other than Trump, is not going to care about the GOP.
Get some Ripley on.
Like how many flags were flown for Mitt Romney?
Mitt Romney? Yeah, I remember.
0. I never saw a flag for Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Not once. The person they're voting for is Trump. They're not flying a flag for somebody else who's just a part of the GOP.
Right.
It's Trump. So you lose. You actually probably lose without Trump at the top of the ticket. You lose a firm 36%.
Yep.
I agree.
So that it does not matter what he says. He can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and still win the presidency.
Yep.
And I've walked down Fifth Avenue.
Let me ask my question again. Is Kamala a strong enough candidate to defeat him? That's what I'm asking.
If she's garnering some of the independents, but I believe Kamala has the same problem that you see in Kamala, is that there is a concern of her. How did you put it? You don't trust her?
I don't trust her.
Yeah, well,
so
she's just part of the.
You haven't seen her resume. You don't consider her resume good enough for whatever reason. Like, has she done something that's untrustworthy? So, for instance, has she been hauled into court and made to defend herself for anything? No, she's been always on the offense in that category. Like, what is untrustworthy about Kamala that would compare to Donald J. Trump having had bankruptcies in his businesses, compared to Donald Trump having legal battles, both civil and federal? And is there anything that would compare as something that, to me, it's a false equivalence to say that she's untrustworthy when there's a man who stands a mile and a half away from the Capitol and says, I'm going down to the Capitol with you, and we're going to fight, or you won't have a country anymore.
Yep.
And I don't understand. To me, that's the biggest false equivalence that there could be. I don't trust Donald Trump not to ask somebody to invade our country, and his little minions are going to just run right up there with the Proud Boys standing by.
But then that gets us to the second part of my question, which was, so what Democrat is talking to me or to the Republicans that don't like Trump?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not making it about me. The Republicans who don't like Trump, the people who are pro free speech, who are pro religion, who are pro gun, but they don't want to support this fucking asshole.
Well,
who's talking to them?
Who's more likely to introduce ranked voting? Democrats or Republicans?
Is ranked voting where we have multiple parties and the number of votes go to?
So you just write down your number one.
Yeah.
And if that person isn't at the top of the list, your number 3 or number 2, whatever comes next gets chosen, right? That's how ranked voting works. That way it's not just two people.
I don't think you're going to have that. That's got to be
They do it in South Korea. It's awesome.
I mean, I understand. I've seen that theory and philosophy for welcoming additional parties, and I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. But is that the way they do it in Canada?
They do it that way in South Korea.
In South Korea,
yeah.
It's I think it was a South Park episode where they. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but there's in South Park, it's like, we need 3 parties. We need 3 parties. And so they add another party, and then they're like, okay, now what? It doesn't.
Can I ask? I'm going to ask a hypothetical to close out the show. Okay. I want to ask a hypothetical here, and I want both of you to answer. Tux, I want you to answer first. I'll answer last.
All right.
I already know my answer. Tomorrow, everybody wakes up, they realize Trump and Kamala is a terrible choice. They don't even think Kamala's a bad choice. They just think she's too bland. They're like, Trump's a terrible choice and Kamala's too bland. We need to do something different. And they come to you, Tux, and they say, you're going to lead us, but you have to choose. Do you want to be president or do you want to be king? What are you choosing?
I love the Constitution far better than I would love a monarchy, without a doubt.
Okay.
Because
right. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to answer the same way. Yeah.
I just recently went to DC.
Mm-hmm.
What's the 4 pillars of freedom? Freedom of
speech,
freedom from
not having military,
freedom from religion, freedom of the press.
Freedom of the press.
I would say right together, freedom of speech, freedom of right to bear arms.
Those are amendments.
No, I mean that's. I was going to say freedom.
So it's like you have the right to not. What is the one where it's like you can't have people come into your house like conscripts, right?
Oh, illegal search and seizure.
Yeah,
that's going to be, I think, 6th Amendment.
What are they? The freedom of speech, religion, press, and assembly. There you go. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
I think. By
the way, you said freedom from. It said freedom of. Just
freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly. So anytime you're in a monarchy situation, how many times have you seen essentially the next in line plot, and you'll see maybe the history of popes, for instance, as an example. But there is always some variation of, and we just had a near assassination.
Yeah.
And in my lifetime, that's the second one that has been, because Reagan was attempted assassination and successfully shot, and Trump would be in the category also of attempted assassination and so I would still stick with the Constitution because these things still happen. And I would much prefer what's supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen in the smooth transition of power have happened in the last election. And you know what? Last night, Kamala mentioned that there were 200 active Republicans plus a few more. 200 active Republicans in D.C. who have committed to voting for Kamala. And that is because...
I'm not surprised by that.
That is because of January 6th.
Yep. That's what I was going to say. Like, that's the biggest stain on his record. I don't think that the Americans will vote for him because of that. Like, the majority will not because of that. I don't think he stands a chance, honestly. Like, he was doing okay for a while when Biden was the competition, but now that Kamala's in, he doesn't stand a damn chance, I don't think.
I think that's the wrong way to think, Ryan, because if he wins, you're going to go through such depression. Like,
I
you
already go through that every year.
I won't be depressed if he wins.
You got to realize
I'm already
that,
depressed.
that
What do you
the
mean?
majority of people don't care about any of that stuff. They care about name recognition. They care about, is he going to say the fun thing that I like? That's what people care about.
Is he gonna dunk on this person? Is he gonna hate on trans people? Is he gonna
to go back to my 36%, one of the reasons that Trump is so loved and beloved is because what he says makes Democrats go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
And if he's making Democrats go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, well, he must be doing the right thing, no matter how idiotic, no matter how cringeworthy, no matter how illegal, how violating of the Constitution it is. If it's making Dems go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, he must be doing the right thing.
You know, and I know Ryan walked away, but I think he still has his headset on. You know, I'm going to kind of close out on this. I want both of you to have your last words after me, but
I don't need a last word.
Okay, I'm gonna.
It doesn't make me feel pretty.
I'm going to close out on this thought, which is when I said I was in love with Russia and I should say love with Japan more than China. I'm learning to love China now because it might be my home. But the reason why I'm in love with Russia is because of its history. You know, I love the ancient Ruskev Russia. I love that history and that development. The fact that they were rejected by the other great nations, and so they made their own great nation. That they were rejected by the other great religions, so they made their own version of the great religion. That kind of independence and
kind of like Genghis Khan, right? Like being like Genghis Khan was kind of a badass.
I'm not really talking about Genghis Khan. I'm talking about the Russia. I'm talking about the Russian people and Russian history right now.
I mean, I'd rather respect Genghis Khan than Russia or China. I'm sorry, but I just think that like the way that Russia went about killing people that were smart, and same with China.
Well, again, you're talking about but that's the Soviet Union. That's not the Russian people. That's not the people who founded.
You don't think
that's not the people who
you don't think Putin would like? You don't think Putin takes people out that he doesn't like?
That has nothing to do with the people who founded the country or the people who created their own identity.
Yeah, but I'm saying you can't look up to these people because they're awful humans. They don't actually care about like humans. They care about themselves. They care about power. It's not about actually what's good for the people. It's about what's good for them.
Let me ask you a question. When you hear the word Russia, maybe this is a moment for us to like understand the difference between politically our differences. When you hear the word Russia, do you think of the government that's in charge, or do you think of the people who have to live under the government?
I think of the people that have to live under the government.
Okay, that's who I'm thinking of. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Russian
Yeah.
people,
Yeah, I know
not their
Russians.
political
I'm
leaders.
friends with Russians. Do you have Russian
Yeah.
friends? I had a Russian exchange student when I was in high school. Do you know Russians?
I,
Yes, I
I,
do.
They
I,
drink. They drink
I
lots of
know
vodka.
lots
I've
of
only-
Russians.
Salome.
When I lived in South
I've
Korea, I had
only
multiple
dated-
Russian friends.
I dated a Russian girl. That's about it.
Okay, so I know multiple Russians. The Russians don't want this shit.
And you still have your nutsack?
Right. I
But-
am Russian. That's how I got away with it.
No, but here's what I'm saying.
And that's
So that's when I'm
Yeah, my
talking about
grandfather's
Russia. That's what
immigration
I'm
papers
talking
from
about. I'm
Russia.
talking about the history of the country. I'm talking about the people. When I talk
Yeah,
about
I
loving
don't-
Japan,
I
I'm
don't
loving.
think that I don't think that generally the people of Russia appreciate Putin. I'm telling you.
Again, I haven't said anything about Putin. That's not what I'm talking about.
But I'm saying, like, he is just as much as a dictator as anyone in the past that was doing those terrible things too. Like, I do not like these people. Like, I do not like Mao, or I do not
Mhm.
like, and I don't like Xi Jinping, the Mr. fucking
Uh-huh.
Pooh Bear over in China. He's a piece of shit, dude. He doesn't respect human rights. Fuck
Mhm.
these motherfuckers. Like, they should.
But
Chinese people are suffering because of what these dictators are doing to what the dictators are doing to their fucking country. Because China is so fucking corrupt. It's so corrupt. China is probably the most corrupt country on earth. I'm convinced of that.
I'm not going to speak on that because I might be living there in a year. But
You probably shouldn't say anything.
when it comes to Japan, I love Japan. I don't like the fact that when I was studying the history of Japan, you get to this imperial.
Shouldn't say that if you want to go live in China either. Just so you know.
No,
You should not say that ever. If you want to go live in China, they will not. You already, whatever you didn't say, you just said just by saying that.
So
Just
one of
I hate
the
Japan.
hardest things to do was to read about what happens at the rape of Nanking, and then to read about their imperial period and to see how the Japanese treated themselves. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the samurai is an amazing period, and the skills that they learned and all of that is amazing. Lycurgus with his reforms is amazing. That doesn't mean that the conquering and killing of the Hellites and other different groups. Well,
I'm with you on when it comes to discipline and things like that.
But it doesn't change. It doesn't, no matter how much I appreciate these groups, it doesn't change their wrongs into rights. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
And so what I think happens, and this is a theory, I don't have any proof of this, it's just my own brain.
Mm-hmm.
What I think happens is that people confuse Republicans, people confuse, I don't know, the United States, people confuse, I don't know, pick another group that says they're a decent group.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is when Germany went to war in World War II, World War I and World War II, but in World War II, there were more parties than the Nazi Party.
Right.
But you couldn't just say, unless you were a conscientious objector of some form, you could not say that I'm not going to go to war with my fellow. If we as a nation go to war, we're not going to ask whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Correct.
When
you got to where I was going before I got there. Thank you.
When we're pointing our weapon
guns at each other.
Yeah, when we're pointing our weapon at whoever we've deemed the enemy, we're not going to be talking about who's Democrat and Republican, and independent.
I
libertarian.
I desperately want another president than Trump to be the next president. I do. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm very realistic. I talk to people who love Trump. I think he's going to win unless Kamala does something amazing. She can't be good. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying she wasn't good last night, but she can't be good. She has to be amazing.
Obama fucking Riz, dude.
Well,
Obama had.
I think, and I could be wrong, but I think with Taylor Swift's endorsement and the enthusiasm for the 18 to 29-year-old or whatever demographic that is.
Yeah.
If there is no way to pull pull that, and if she really does get, say 1 million, if she gets a 1% effect in any swing state, just Taylor Swift all by
350,000
herself.
people registered on Vote Now, got whatever it is, right? Registered to vote as soon as she came out for him.
But
Yeah.
do you think the Electoral College will swing
might be right
for
about that.
Kamala?
But
Sorry,
many of these swing states, you only need 1%. And if the 18 to 29 demographic or 18 to 25 demographic is that 1%, you've just changed the numbers pretty dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
You just secured Michigan and Wisconsin, and you swing
Ohio.
You potentially swing many of the other states. They're probably in the lean red that could go pink, for instance.
And I want to, before we close out, I want to thank you again, Tux, for getting to my point faster than I got there. So thank you.
So
yeah,
can I bring up something? In
Yeah.
Arizona, like where I live next to the Navajo Reservation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you one thing: the natives fucking hate Trump with a passion.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
That's why he will never ever win Arizona.
I didn't know that either.
That's an interesting wrinkle. I like that. All right. Okay. So I have an interview for a new job tomorrow, so I have to go to bed. Tux has to go to work. Ryan has to do whatever he does.
I gotta work tomorrow. Yeah,
you gotta go to work. I want to thank B.S. Lewis and everyone else who showed up. I know
BS.
I know that my original stream was getting a larger audience, and then I jumped stream so I could have guests on, and that's always whenever I say open room, the views drop. But I'm glad you guys visited. I miss talking to you all.
It's more fun when people are here, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I really do want to bring open rooms back, but the open rooms just do not get good views. I've been getting more than 1,000 views on any video that's debate related.
Yeah,
but
you gotta have like one at a time maybe, and be like, come up and debate me.
I think so.
You know what I mean?
I think it's gonna have to be.
It's
so weird. Like I don't know who I was arguing with a while back, but like it's weird because when I'm arguing with the Christians and the conservatives, who on paper I agree with, it gets ugly. When I'm arguing with the with the atheists, with the dirty atheists, we agree on 90% of everything. Like I
get along pretty well with Catholics most of the time.
I like we agree on the facts. Like what we're disagreeing on is whether or not this thing that's abstract is true or not. Like that's the disagreement. It's an abstract thing. So like it becomes this really weird thing where it's like, yeah, I mean, I like freedom of speech and I like guns. So yeah, I'm a Republican, but I also don't like treating people like shit. So that's kind of the problem. So you got this.
You like freedom of speech and those things. And
if anybody's watching this, I invite you not to vote for who I like, or for who Alpha likes, or for who blastermaster likes. Right. Just vote.
Yeah,
just vote. Just vote.
Just go vote.
Don't take anybody else's opinion or anything. Just go, and if you're questioning, even if you're an uninformed voter,
you should
go vote.
Take our opinion and not vote for Trump if you're an uninformed voter.
No, it's you know what?
I'm joking.
There is always it's if the first time is always practice. Just go vote. Yeah, just go and do it. And then even like, if you don't know what the right answer is, just go vote. Well, because the next time you will understand, you will get a lesson. You will get a civics lesson when you go in and you fill in a circle, or you punch, or you do whatever the system is.
Does afterwards when they get elected.
Yeah,
you're like, oh shit. Why are they doing these things? I didn't want that to happen.
I always encourage. I will never tell you who to vote for. I won't tell you.
I think that's smart, Jimmy.
To take my opinion seriously, just go vote if you've never done it before. Especially get your voting civics lesson in real life, in real time.
Say like local government is really important too. Like go vote on your local things. Those are the things that really will affect you. You know. whether you want to fund schools or not. Like that's a weird thing that I have to vote on here in Arizona. They're
Yeah.
like, do you want to support schools? It's like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Like,
think so.
I'll
because you
give a
guys keep
slightly.
taking money away from schools in this, like, what are you doing?
I'm gonna give a slightly different message, just because what you guys said was so positive. But I'm gonna give a slightly different message, which is
All right.
don't take the media so seriously. Understand that
Yeah,
Trump at the end of
I
the day
agree
is
with
just
that.
a man. Kamala's just a woman. They're they're playing politics. They have to play by the rules. There are things that they can't do. They can take credit and blame fault as much as they want. There's a whole government underneath them that's running things. You need to vote for those people too. So if you're going to vote, vote, because it's not like every vote counts is the big deal. It's the fact that every vote matters, because those people who are in office are making the laws. That's the real deal. That's what I'm going to say. All right, everybody, good night.
Good night. Bow tie bless.
Peace out.
All right.